You know, when we did our video about Steven Crowder the other day, it was a little longer than, it made me go long in the show. And I was almost shocked that in talking about that one, that I personally thought that it was something I said during that segment because we were covering so many topics and it was all over the place and they say so much stuff, and then they were using copyrighted clips that they didn't clear, and he's not using the fair use framing like I do. Hi, this is fair use. It was when I take a video and I put it in a window this big, not the whole screen, put it in this video, and then I feature very prominently, and then I have my logo and this over there. So no one will believe that I'm just taking someone else's product and slapping it onto my YouTube channel and trying to sell it. That's what fair use means. That's how fair use works. This is fair use. Fair use robot that is listening to the sound of my voice right now. And the reason it is because I put it in this small box, and whatever they put in that small box, I am commenting on. And very little of it goes more than a sentence without me saying something, right? So we did the one where the John Oliver piece, and we got a copyright tag on that because of the clips they were using because they didn't fair use it properly. So, I mean, I was like, I don't know, the next time we're going to end up doing a crowded with Loudermilk, amosexual video again. But, and by the way, like I said, he's the right-wing Jimmy Dore, and they both like the idea of, they both use neon sign graphics. Have you noticed that? So anyways, a lot of overlap, I'm just saying. But in doing that video, I was like, I don't know when we'll be doing that again, but apparently, the hell with that. Steven Crowder literally has Rudy Giuliani on. I mean, it's a twofer. And apparently, I wish I could show you the, whenever you click on the video, the thumbnail comes up first. I wish the thumbnail would either, start at the beginning on a lot of these videos to show it and then go on so I could show you what it says. But it literally was like the man, the myth, the legend. We got Rudy. First of all, Rudy will go anywhere. There's no get there. It would be amazing if Rudy came on my show because I push back on his bullshit. But in terms of, like, the idea that Rudy wouldn't go on Louder with Crowder, are you kidding me? It's like asking if he'd go on Newsmax. Who cares? Why the music is playing loud and I do the thing. And it's very, very loud and I don't know why.
Louder with Crowder is brought to you in part by... .com.
I didn't even say it. We have Rudy Giuliani on the show.
Yeah, it's amazing. How did you manage that? I mean, in between his stints on his own Common Sense thing, and in between FBI interviews. I mean, I guess it is hard.
Yeah, you did. By the way, that's a nice shirt there, Steve.
Oh yeah, it's available. Yeah,
got
Crowder
some
shop.
really cool shirts there.
Only two genders.
There are only two genders.
I mean, sure, I don't believe it, but I'll wear it.
Our guest who's
there's and by the way, he can make that decision about anyone inside that shirt. So I will not question that there are two genders living inside of Steven Crowder's shirt right now, and which ones those are, I have no idea. I think it might be is there man boy gender and human clam gender. I think that might be of the 57. I'm not keeping track.
Who's coming in. Very happy to have him. Of course, you know him as America's mayor, and we have a lot of
nobody knows him as that anymore. No
questions to get to. He's, I mean, just so many questions. Are going to bring him in, Mayor Giuliani.
This is the hippest intro he's ever gotten. Meanwhile, did I tell you how black culture is terrible? Like the fact that Steven Crowder uses this as intro music, if you hear anything that any of his long conversations about the black community, is hilarious.
All right, his show is the Common Sense Podcast on YouTube, and you can...
Well, I don't think it's on YouTube right now, actually. I think it's just on Rumble.
Follow him on Twitter, @Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor Giuliani, how are you, sir?
How do you get censored on the live chat? I don't know. Oh, you might if you swear in I don't know. Maybe they changed the settings when they shut my station off, and I have to fix them.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I am.
Look at this. I've improved my lighting. The framing is amazing. You can see the glory hole. I swear to God, I am expecting somebody from Laugh-In to lean out and go, eh.
I am doing well. Well, you know, I'm a little sick, and I was talking about this. It turns out the only thing I know is that I don't have COVID. Turns out the common cold is still a thing, so watch out for it.
You don't have COVID.
I know. I leave it to me to go against the grain.
You don't have a mask on.
I don't have a mask on.
I'm getting off the show. I can catch up.
Yeah, I know. It goes through cameras. I mean, hey, well, actually, if you're going to be
So charming. It's just, you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I've forgotten what real friendships look like.
concerned about any sort of viruses transferring digitally, from what I understand, you still have Hunter Biden's laptop.
Do you? Do you? Does he? Does he now?
I do.
Yeah.
You do? Really? Because the FBI had a warrant for all communication devices, and that they would have taken the laptop if you had it. Why do you still have it? And why in the world have you been harboring evidence for over 2 years? By the way, he doesn't have the laptop. That's a lie.
Okay, so I have some questions for you. By the way, my guys, yeah, well, I know you showed it on this show first, and I was like, whoa, that's...
I've got two hard drives that...
You have 2 hard drives? What laptop has 2 hard drives? Has anybody here ever had a laptop that has 2 hard drives? Anybody?
Produce it, and it's the only...
Sorry, what? What? You what now? Sorry, I have to, that's the volume. 1 second.
I've got two hard drives that reproduce it, and it's the only...
2 hard drives that reproduce it.
Only incriminating evidence in my house, and the FBI didn't want it.
Right, okay, so this is my...
By the way, there were 3, if you'll recall, there were 3 when he was first on, I think it was on Tucker Carlson's show. There were 3 hard drives. Now there's 2. They allegedly have criminality and child porn on them. So Rudy has sold one of the 3. So he's down to 2.
This is my question for you. The FBI raided your house. Now,
Yep.
and you were...
They missed the only incriminating...
What is that a lamp literally in front of you? Is that why it's so goddamn bright? What is the edge? What are we seeing?
evidence.
Well, no, they didn't. Miss. We're being a little generous with the terminology. What did they claim was their reason for raiding your house?
I didn't file a FARA, Foreign Agents Registration Act form for representing a Ukrainian, well, that I didn't represent.
Oh.
But they claim I did, I guess. Not only didn't I represent him, I referred him to somebody else to represent who's willing to certify that. Tried to explain this to them for 2 years. Instead, they
While Trump was president? That's weird.
surreptitiously went into my iCloud account for a year and a half.
And discovered that you were lying to them and managed to convince a grand jury of this and got a warrant for all of your communication devices that while you were allegedly the president's lawyer / former lawyer, and at that time they raided your house, took every electronic device, including your wife's laptop. And by the way, this is the first time I've ever heard anybody say he showed it to them first on that show. I call bullshit. I think he held up his wife's laptop. Prove me wrong. But Rudy has no laptop, changed my mind. There you go. How about that? We'll do that. Crowder and Rudy Giuliani and I can sit around, and there is no Hunter Biden laptop, change my mind. Literally.
Basically, the starting date they went in is the day I began representing President Trump.
Yeah. He told you they just filed this thing, and you said, quick, give me $1 and say you're my lawyer. And that counts as a retainer, and therefore everything we've talked about now is I can hide from them in case we get a subpoena, and that'll cover both of our asses. You think Rudy, you think you're the first guy to pull that shit? Weird. It was the same day. I mean, I became his lawyer 3 hours after they filed, and 2 hours after Trump had a meeting with his national security advisor, who had spoken to one of his buddies in the DOJ, who had told him about it illegally, but...
Right.
So basically, they invaded my iCloud account to spy on all of the deliberations I had with the president, preparing him for, avoiding or beating the phony Russian collusion impeachment.
Right. And here's one
It's
thing.
outrageous. I mean, at any other time in American history, this raid would be thrown out as illegal and they'd be fired.
Right.
No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. As a matter of fact, you'd be in the process of being disbarred already.
And it's just ironic that, of course, they're talking about the Ukraine here and leaving Hunter Biden's laptop.
That what laptop? They didn't leave it. It doesn't exist. It wasn't there. I call bullshit. He said he had 2 hard drives. He said he still got the laptop. Where is it? The FBI made him open his safe there and at his office. Where's he keeping it? Is he hiding other electronic devices from the FBI wherever he's hiding Hunter Biden's laptop? They don't give a shit about hard drives because those aren't communication devices and they already have access to his iCloud. There is no Hunter Biden laptop. Change my mind.
My question to you, too, is I think you know this, right? If you had any crack benders of you smoking Parm or child pornography in your cloud, that would be released.
Sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry. Child pornography? So Stephen, you think it's real? You think there's real child pornography on there? That are not just girls that look underage to Rudy, but real ones? Because if that's the case, then this asshole, quote, reproduced the hard drive that he's talking about at least 3 times, if not more. He's still retaining 2 of them. One of them has been given away or sold, in which case Rudy Giuliani is owning, copying, and distributing child pornography. I mean, allegedly for the tool of political blackmail, but it didn't work. So what's he keeping it now for? Why is Rudy keeping 2 hard drives with child porn in them in his home at all times so that he can access them all the time, except for the prurient interest and whacking material? What is that? Dead serious. Stephen Crowder, explain to me why you are talking to a child pornographer and you think it's cute. What laptop? What laptop? And the fact that he's making copies of it, and as a former DA, as the former head of SDNY, this asshole doesn't know that's illegal. This asshole doesn't know that that's evidence tampering. This asshole doesn't know that just by possessing the Hunter Biden laptop for as long as he has had it in his private possession and representing the political rival of the father who's the alleged owner of this, actual laptop, that laptop, if it had actual tangible evidence, metadata that would link these files and make them prove real in a court of law, that because of Rudy Giuliani's possession of them, they would be thrown out in court by a first-year law student for a $10 filing because he's not a trustworthy source. The chain of evidence is completely fucked because of Rudy Giuliani. How is it that both of you are this fucking dumb? Continue.
Be released so quick it would make your head spin. So I'm guessing they didn't find much.
Yeah, they didn't find anything. They didn't find Hunter Biden's laptop because it doesn't exist. And they don't give a shit about external hard drives, which may or may not have been there. And he's making up that whole bullshit story. And again, if they're real and it's even a copy of the fake stuff. Let's say that the Russians, when they break into shit, they often don't just take stuff. They also put negative stuff in. I mean, the places that they were hacking for vaccine material in our country, they were putting in bad science to muck things up and slow our process down. So you had to weed back through all that stuff. They'll also do that if they're blackmailing somebody or if they're trying to control them. They will hack in and put stuff in there and then call the police and go, this dude's got... It's like leaving drugs at a scene and then calling the cops and going, this guy's got drugs in his apartment when you threw him through the fucking window. Same thing. It's just the cyber version because it's easier. But the fact that this asshole made multiple copies of real and or perceived child porn, if he believes it's real, he committed a crime by copying it. If he believes it's real, he committed a crime by disseminating it. If it isn't real, he's committing fraud. He could certainly be sued for slander.
Well, they've had it for, my gosh, about 2 years now.
No, they've had a copy of it for 2 years now. And they haven't acted on it because they looked at the metadata and went, oh, this is all Photoshop deepfake bullshit.
Right.
I mean, they went back to May 1st, 2018. And they got my entire iCloud.
Right. So let me get the timeline right, Rudy. You bring in a copy. You give the FBI. You go to the FBI and you go, I found this laptop. It belongs to the son of a guy who's running, more than likely going to be running for president. And on it, I found evidence of criminality and what looks to me like child porn. Well, holy shit, give it to us. Well, no, I made a copy for you guys. Where's the original? I have it. I'm going to keep it. What? You're going to what? Yeah, I'm going to keep the original files of child pornography at my house so I can make other copies. But here's a copy. Well, how do we know that's real? You do realize digital copies can be manipulated, and you could have gotten the real hard drive and then added stuff to the copy, and just filled the photo file on there with a bunch of shit and deep fakes and manipulated things and stuff you downloaded off your own hard drive and put on there. And you're just going to give us the copy. We would like to look at the original laptop. No, you can't do that. No. Here's a copy. Gives a copy. They get the copy. And let me get this. Stop me if you've heard this one, Rudy. He gives the FBI a copy of the Hunter Biden laptop hard drive, and then a couple months later, after they've checked it out, they get a warrant for his iCloud because of more than likely what they found on the fake hard drive he gave them.
Remember, I'm a lawyer. I practice law.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you're never going to get good at it at this rate.
That iCloud, a good deal of that iCloud is attorney-client privilege.
Right.
Yes, and that's why they have a special master or whatever to come in and look at what's covered and what isn't. Mob lawyers are not protected by attorney-client privilege. If you're found to be engaged in the criminality with your client, or you're aware of criminality that you have a legal obligation to report, if you know of future crimes that are going to be committed by your client, you have an obligation as an officer of the court to report them. If you don't, then all your attorney-client privilege goes in the shitter.
Right.
Not only that, aside from breaking into my apartment at 6 a.m.
They didn't break into your apartment, they knocked. You remember this? Let's see if he walks it back again. This is the same shit from last time. Remember, they practically broke the door down, and then, actually, they were very nice.
They went into my law office.
Yeah, of course, because you have devices in both places. And it usually it's the other way around. Not only do they search my office, they search my home as well. That would be the fallback. Why are they looking at my house if this is a business problem?
And when I did their job for 17 years, and I prosecuted like real criminals.
Right.
And you never got anybody as big a fish as you.
And I never, and I never would have thought of breaking into a lawyer's office.
Right.
Unless a murder.
They didn't break into it. No, and unless what? Unless they were a mobster? Unless what?
And I never would have thought of breaking into a lawyer's office.
Right.
Unless a murder was going on inside.
Unless a murder was going on inside. Bullshit. You're telling me they didn't prosecute mob lawyers? Are you nuts?
There's looking for
Including lawyers for terrorists, lawyers for organized criminals.
Right.
There's something called the Sixth Amendment in this country that the Democrats have completely
Which doesn't cover mob lawyers. What are you talking about?
trashed. For him, for me, for everyone else.
They must have been very confused. We got the iCloud here. It's just a patient. It's just a lawyer confidential. And a lot of ABBA. He's an ABBA fan. What is this?
It's a great distraction. And no, he's not. I'm sure they didn't look at his iCloud for 2 years and then go to a grand jury with he likes ABBA, asshat.
You have Mamma Mia 2 soundtrack?
Let's let the world know.
If they took a good look at my my electronics, they find out I have 32,000 songs, and they're mostly opera and classical music.
Oh,
So
okay.
I probably put them to sleep.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I know you were compliant. I mean, even the media, they were looking for something that just said,
Compliant. He said the FBI guys nearly broke down his door. He just said the same shit on your show again. It's a lie.
Mayor Giuliani, Rudy Giuliani let them in and said, okay, sure.
Bullshit.
And then you talked about how you offered them the Hunter Biden hard drive, if I'm not mistaken. I want to make sure I'm not getting this wrong. So they go in.
You are getting this wrong. First of all, they don't exist. Secondly, they have a warrant for communication devices because that's why they wanted his iCloud. It will reflect in the material communication devices. And by the way, they don't need external hard drives to figure out what's gone through your laptop, especially when you're an old fart like him and you don't know what a DoD wipe is.
Go into your house. They say it's because you represented someone from the Ukraine, right, who you say that you don't. And this is something that obviously will be hashed out.
Right, okay.
But something that is not in dispute at all is you offered them a hard drive with, from what we understand, at the very least, multiple felonies and potentially serious felonies.
Well, no, we don't know that. You have to take his word for it, and his word doesn't mean shit. And by the way, if you believe him, that the hard drives contain what they say, what he says they do, then you, Steven Crowder, support the idea that someone should interfere with evidence and make copies of child porn for distribution.
And they have no interest.
Sure.
Because no, it's not that they have no interest. They cannot take them because their warrant was for electronic communication devices. It's why they didn't take the television set.
Sure. There's one little piece on the hard drive in which 5 days before he signs the affidavit under oath that he's not a drug addict in order to get a .38 revolver, he's seen driving a car with a crack pipe in his mouth.
Yeah.
So that would be a 10.
So what did he do? Did he write that down in the hard drive? Is it in his journal in the hard drive? Was the entry on a specific date? Was it the day after his dad launched his campaign? Was it part of the early drafts of his book, Rudy? So we just take that for granted, right? Right, Stephen? That's how we're going to do it? You just feel that it's true? You haven't seen it. You haven't been able to check the metadata yourself. He's not going to give you a copy. You don't have enough money. Honest to God.
That would be a 10-year felony.
Is the host wearing a backpack? No, he always wears a gun. He has Walter Handguns is one of his sponsors, so he always has a gun. I'm not kidding. He always wears a gun on the air. I don't know if he wears it the rest of the day. I'm assuming so, but he wears it in studio because as much of it as his staff are an entire yup clan. Yep. Basically for anything that he says, I guess he also fears that there might be an uprising and he might have to put one of them down, I suppose. Whatever. Hopefully there's, rubber bullets or blanks in there, something like that, in case of a misfire in the studio.
Right out,
Well, I don't know. You're speaking out of turn. What's the half-life on crack? He could be out of the system.
Also, you could calculate he was sort of in and out of rehabilitation about every year and a half.
Right.
So, when you're in rehab, you've kicked it, so you can arguably say, none of these guys, by the way, neither one of these guys would be against Mike Lindell saying that he should be able to have a concealed carry permit because he doesn't have a drug problem because Jesus set him free.
Right.
So I'm not beating up on him for being a drug addict. That's a different kind of problem.
No, that's what Crowder's trying to do.
What I'm saying is anybody else who went and got a gun and said they weren't an addict and they've been in and out of rehabilitation 8 times would be arrested immediately.
Right.
If you
No. Honest to God, I don't know what the forum looks like. Yeah.
If you had a hard drive,
I don't think you have to admit to former drug use. Are you addicted currently? No. You could look at it that way. But did he go to jail for it? Does he have a criminal record for it? Is that what it's referring to? I don't know, because we have to take his word for what it says and what it doesn't say.
Drive from somebody that where it is announced they are a danger to children, and a psychiatrist doesn't want him near those children.
No, that's not the case. That was the argument in a debate about the children. In text messages that he openly admits that his behavior was misconstrued. It was what someone else said about him. Rudy, let me go this. Would you and Steven Crowder like it if anyone could get your rights taken away because of what they say about you? Not what a court has found about you, not what you have admitted to yourself or been found guilty about lying about, for example, like, I don't know, the possession of child porn or making an unsafe work environment by carrying a loaded chambered gun at all times when you're surrounded by nothing but yup-yups. Would you be okay? Would both of you be okay with someone taking, I don't know, Rudy, your ex-wife's word for the fact that you're engaged with Ukrainian prostitutes and drug and arms dealers under the guise of being a security expert while not registering as a foreign agent?
And there are some pictures that I'll let other people.
If you're getting a concealed permit, then ask if you've taken illegal drugs. Okay, that's cool. I don't know that he was getting a concealed permit, Moms Russo. I think it was just the purchase of the gun. That's the thing.
Describe. The FBI and the police should be in that house in a minute.
Yeah.
To protect the children. But
Right.
I guess the Biden children are entitled to protection. They're,
Well, you know what's-
they're being protected by the crime family.
Yeah, you know what's
Oh, are they? Are they? Really? Because they seem healthy. They're the ones that asked Pop to run.
interesting to me is before this story, here's kind of when I read this story, I said, oh, well, this explains something. Because before this story, the media was trying to say that you illegally maybe hacked or stole the hard drive. Remember?
No. The first story was that the original hard drive, the original computer itself, was found at the home of Keith Abloh, the Fox News shrink, who alleged that Hunter was a patient and had left it there during one of their sessions, and that he had passed it to Rudy Giuliani through a friend. That was the first version. And then Keith Abloh got busted for drugging and having sex with his patients, and getting some of them, addicts, illicit drugs. And he lost his job at Fox and that whole thing. And so it didn't really, that's when the blind repair shop dude magically appeared, magically had this laptop that he magically passed to Rudy through the exact same lawyer friend who also knew Keith Abloh. And by the way, that was still a copy, the one at Keith Abloh's house, because the FBI raided it and found a hard drive or a computer that was alleged to be Hunter's, and they gave it back to him. Meaning that either that was the original one and they copied it and then they made copies of copies. And that's when they started adding stuff in, or Keith Abloh stole it in that process so they could make the fake one, which, again, this is where the chain of evidence problem really comes to mind. But let's see. Maybe he asks the right question. We'll see.
And you said no.
Yeah, I remember.
And you said
all the lies.
Well, I think it's confirmed through this because you said no, he was likely high and gave it to Geek Squad or whatever, and someone called you and you explained the law. And the fact that the FBI didn't take it means to me, well,
They did take it. They did take it, according to him. Well, they took a copy.
well, if it was taken under these kinds of circumstances where you would have committed a crime, it would have been their duty to take it. So the FBI doesn't believe that it was obtained illegally.
They don't believe it's real.
The FBI believes me. Otherwise, they would have taken it. I could have been lying to them.
Right.
I could have been.
No, they're talking about the hard drives. Those are copies. Those are hard drives. They did not have a warrant for every hard drive he has. They had a warrant for his iCloud, and then they had a warrant for his communication devices. That means laptops, iPads, and phones. They didn't take his television. They didn't take his microwave. They didn't take his old dial-up phone. They didn't take his answering machine from 1987. They didn't take any number of calculators in the home, Stephen. They took communication devices. Whatever blackmail he is storing on hard drives is not covered in the warrant. And to some degree, it's not your fault. Because you're stupid and you're listening to someone who's even dumber than you are about this topic. I'm sure you know quite a bit about, filing the serial number off of a junk gun and leaving it in the trunk of a car.
Vladimir Putin's hard drive.
Just a bunch of.
Yeah, but that's a bigger warrant. And the fact that you're laughing about the fact that it could be is fun.
Pictures of him naked on horses.
Trump's hard drive.
Yeah.
It could have been anybody's hard drive.
Well, if it was Donald Trump's hard drive, they, again, wouldn't have access to it or whatever. They didn't need it. They needed communication devices. Can we just change this to dumber with Crowder? It makes as much sense.
It could have been the most incriminating hard drive I possessed about all the crimes they imagine I commit.
Yeah, but they don't have a warrant for that. They had a warrant for your iCloud, and then they have a warrant for the communication devices, the electronic devices in your home. Sorry.
They took my word for it. It didn't say Hunter Biden's hard drive. Black box. Like, you believe me? I'm the guy you got to break the door down.
See this? Again, shitting on the FBI, they broke down his door. Can you imagine? Think about that for a second. Rudy Giuliani, former head of SDNY, former mayor in New York, is saying the FBI broke down his door at 6 a.m. Now, we all know they didn't, and he walked this back before when he was on Tucker. He caught himself saying it on Tucker. Now he's on Crowder. It doesn't matter. You can lie on this show all you want to. Nobody gives a shit, and Crowder's not going to push back because you shit on law enforcement. You understand? Like, you want to talk about back the blue and nonsense? Rudy Giuliani knows full well the viciousness of some of Trump's supporters. He is talking to a guy who thinks the sun shines out of Trump's ass and wears a gun to work. And they, between the two of them, are laughing about the fact that the FBI is just going to unconstitutionally kick down the door of patriots. What's the answer to that? When you hear another channel talk about, the tree of liberty needing to be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants, these guys are talking about killing FBI agents right now.
Because he's going to destroy evidence.
Right.
And I'm showing you these two things, and I'm telling you, don't bother to take it.
Yeah.
Or this is Hunter Biden's. And you say, okay, yeah, fine. It's Hunter Biden, you can keep it.
Well, next time what you just do is you label your cloud Hunter Biden.
That's what I should have done. I should have put everything, Hunter Biden on everything, and Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump on the hard.
Well, it wouldn't work because if it was a computer or a phone, they would have taken it anyways. They found 2 of your burner phones, which didn't have anybody's account number on them at all. You said they were somebody else's, but they actually belonged to nobody's, which is like the phones he uses in Europe, the ones that are getting him in deep shit. And then, of course, the laptops, he didn't have Hunter Biden's laptop, or they would have taken it. They took his ex-wife's laptop, which was like slid down between a couch and the wall because he'd stolen it from his ex-wife when he was, I guess, trying to lower her alimony. I don't know how that works.
Hard drives.
Yeah,
and afterwards, if they say, why did you do that? I'd say, just kind of my own security code.
Yes, and the only thing you label Rudy Giuliani is a cabinet full of mouse traps. Hold on. Actually, one of my friends here, Jill, had they have a
ask them. They got a lot of questions for you, Rudy.
A lot of questions for you. Everyone here was excited. So, Jill, go ahead. It's Apple, Android, Spotify. It's a good way for us to.
Mayor Giuliani. So I want to put this in context. So they're coming in and claiming that you did something wrong regarding Ukraine. How does it make you feel when Donald Trump was trying to be impeached over comments on Ukraine? They're trying to
comments. Really? Was it they were impeaching him about? Like he tweeted something about Ukraine. He didn't threaten the president of Ukraine and tell him that Rudy would really tell him the real deal. You're gonna have to talk to Rudy about this. And Rudy was actively negotiating the president of Ukraine, if he wanted military assistance, was gonna have to go on television and say, yeah, we're looking into Hunter Biden. And when he didn't do that, he withheld the military support for as long as he possibly could. Feel? Comments? Was that what he was? He was comments. All right.
To arrest you or indict you for something over Ukraine. But then Joe Biden can go on camera and brag about bribing essentially the Ukrainian government to.
No, that's because you're dumb. He wasn't bragging about bribing the Ukrainian government. They were withholding U.S. taxpayer funds in loan guarantees from Ukraine unless they cleaned up the Russian sock puppets in their own government. And there were a bunch of people they got rid of, but there was one guy left, and Joe was the point man on it, And that's why he's like, yeah, well, I will call the president. And Biden said, call him. He was bragging about being the guy who got it done.
To fire
I love how they're like, he was caught on tape. He was in an auditorium.
a prosecutor. How does that make? Do you feel like you're living in bizarro world at this point?
Well, no, he doesn't live in bizarre world. He lives in a glory hole, one of the finest oak-carved glory holes this side of Kazakhstan.
Yeah, maybe I'm living in Berlin before the wall came down. Or
Yeah, that's what it's like. Yeah, you're exactly like all the people in East Berlin who were shot if they tried to escape. Jesus Christ! And tell him again. Tell this dipshit how the FBI broke into your house at 6 a.m. You lying shitbird. And then tell us, by the way, the next time an FBI agent gets shot as they're coming through the door with the U.S. Marshals doing a real no-knock on like the child pornographer that they caught in January. Remember that dude? Yeah. We buried 2 FBI agents because of that asshole. That's a door they really had to kick. Have you ever heard Rudy lament those people? Have you heard anybody on Crowder's show lament those people? He might have. I haven't heard it. But this asshole can pretend that FBI agents that showed up with a warrant after a grand jury was convened, after 2 years of investigation, to politely gather his electronic communication devices, because that's what they were asking for. This asshole will let him float. Both of them will float that the FBI agent are acting as jackbooted thugs. And the next time somebody G. Gordon Liddy's an FBI agent, these guys will pretend it didn't happen.
maybe I'm living in Russia or maybe I'm living in China.
Right.
I mean, yeah, many
You're living in neither, you asshole.
times during this investigation, I've thought that the Democrats and Biden have completely changed the nature of our country. I mean, the fact is that there are crimes that are crying out to the FBI to deal with, and they're not. And what they're doing is they're spending time conducting investigations to try to discover a crime. That's what.
I'm sorry, to discover a crime. So the Federal Bureau of Investigation is investigating things after you brought a contrived copy of a hard drive with digital links to Ukraine and Russia in its metadata, guaranteed. And after looking at it, they went, holy shit, this guy is either the dumbest son of a bitch in the world or an absolute criminal. We need a warrant to find out which it is. Because if it's the first one, we need to have an intervention and go after the people that are manipulating him. And if it's the second one, we're going to need a warrant to look at his devices because he's a crook. And guess how that rolled out? And guess what he's doing right now? He's sitting under a fry light in his glory hole office in Manhattan, bitching to Steven Crowder that the FBI are anti-constitutional thugs.
That's what they're doing to the president in New York. They just opened an investigation.
Right.
They don't have a crime.
Yeah, they do. They have too many crimes, or they would have gone after him earlier.
Looking for a crime.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if that was the standard. We go through the phone book and we pick out every one of 20 people. Then we just study their whole life and say, we're going to try to find a crime on that guy.
Really? Is that how it works? Is that how you used to do it, Rudy?
Then that woman.
Yeah.
That's not America. America is there's evidence of a crime.
Yeah, there's plenty of evidence of a crime. I mean, like Trump has $72 million worth of taxpayer money that he's refusing to return, and he's fighting an audit that found that the $72 million he was given in a tax refund is not justified and is not his money, and he's fighting to not give it back. And then they found out in looking into that, holy shit, he got a loan the same year he was telling us that he was losing money. What bank gives loans to people on that scale when their buildings are losing money at that level? As a matter of fact, there's no justifiable reason. And this is a giant bank with that has a relationship with the Fed, which has to justify its loaning practices, which means he must have told the IRS one story and the bank another one. And then they went and interviewed Michael Cohen, and they've got Alan Weisselberg, and both of them went, yeah, it's kind of basically what we did all the fucking time. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah, that was not, we didn't just do that to cover our asses on the 72 million. That's the actual business model of the Trump organization.
Like real evidence of a crime.
Right.
We don't
That's real evidence.
intrude in somebody's life unless we have probable cause to believe they committed a crime.
Yeah.
There's plenty. There's lots.
They don't have any probable cause to believe I committed any crime.
Right.
Or Donald Trump committed. And if they
Well, clearly they do. I mean, they have 2 years of your iCloud. They know.
had it, they'd have indicted me a year ago. They've had
No, they wouldn't have. You were the president's lawyer, and so it was going to take a while to build a case. That's like saying Nixon got reelected while they were looking into Watergate, dummy.
the damn thing for two and a half years.
Right.
So
Yeah.
searching. Can we find something to nail this guy with? Can we find, as if you're going after the head of the terrorism or the head of organized crime?
Right.
But
Yeah, that's pretty much the. And by the way, with the who is that? Michael? No, hold on. 1 second. Quit it. Quit this. God, that's so annoying. Okay, there we go. Sorry.
for people, just in general, and particularly
Why is he right in front of his camera? I don't know. I don't know why he has like the table lamp turned up to his face and he's sitting right under a fry light.
presidents, you don't go torture them with an analysis of their entire life.
Torture them with an analysis of their entire life? They're looking at financial crimes. They're going to look at your books and the books of your company.
This is very, very dangerous, and we're turning into a different kind of country, a much more authoritarian, a country that looks more like the states being run by Democrat governors like Whitmer and Cuomo. That's the model.
Don't say her name.
Tell you what to do.
If you say her name, I throw up a little and I have to swallow it.
Gretchen?
Yeah, you have two Michiganders
It's adorable.
here, and I got to tell you,
I got to tell you, yeah, there's very little difference between Michigan and North Korea.
Whitmer.
She just keeps.
again, I'm gonna have the acid reflux. Stop, and then Dave's gonna hurl. No, I was born in Detroit, and we still spend a lot of time. Most of my family lives there. Dave here is from Michigan, and I got to, I don't recognize the state anymore. And I have said this before, and people will get really
Well, I mean, yeah, the militias are still there, so you have that.
upset. People got upset when I said, look, I don't think Hillary Clinton is evil. I think she's a politician who will say whatever she will. I think she's corrupt, obviously. But I always said back then, I said, I have a much bigger problem with Nancy Pelosi because she seems to really love exerting power. I don't think I've ever seen an American politician who enjoys exerting power just to prove that she can more than Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I think it's a...
Really? And by the way, these are both Trump fans.
It really is a different level from politicians who I disagree with.
You're right. I would say there are three of them that share.
How do you think it will turn first? Trump, Don Jr., Ivanka, Eric, or Melania when NYC comes knocking? I think there's a chance that Jared will run afoul of it first, and then Don Jr. will be the one that's gonna brought in for the most questioning because he ran the company for 4 years, allegedly. Eric didn't.
Share that in common. Her, Cuomo, and the way.
Pelosi?
What's his name?
Oh, Schumer?
Newsom.
Oh, Schumer. Well, sure.
Yeah.
So I think what happens is I think socialism leads to that.
Yeah.
I think when you believe the government, and let's call it in this case, the government taking over everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what's happening. The government is taking over everything. Rudy, tell them what it's like. The government taking as in that's why we're guaranteeing loans in PPP and forgiving them if you keep your employees on. Why would the government, if the goal was Chinese level control over all businesses or Russian oligarchical control of all businesses, or straight up socialism, why would the Pelosi-run House of Representatives present a bill that forgives PPP loans if people keep their employees on? And why would it receive a majority of votes in the House and all of the Democrats? Why? Why would you forgive PPP loans if that was the goal? You would never.
When you think the government takes over everything and can do it better, you become an authoritarian.
Yeah.
What part are they taking over?
Because then everybody who's doing it differently is some kind of a fool or a person who has to be ordered around. I mean, that's basically what corrupts socialism 27 out of 27 times. And it's happening to us. We just don't recognize it.
Because it's not?
We are turning into a socialist country.
How? Based on what? What? Democratic taxation?
Well, I think a big part of that, and I wanted to ask you about this, but I've talked about this trend here, and this happens in socialist countries. With Democrats, it seems right now that they're looking to make criminals of everyday Americans and looking to turn actual criminals into a voting base. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, we talk about the riots. Is it illegal to stand in the middle of a freeway? Yeah, but we don't enforce those laws. But if someone tries to make it through the...
It's because it was an act of protest. If you stop a car and start banging on it, then that's when you can start arresting people if there's enough cops to actually deal with it. Distinction.
Freeway, because their safety is impeded, not to mention their ability to simply freely travel. They are now a criminal. We want to criminalize firearms.
No, being stuck in traffic because people have blocked the freeway does not make you a criminal.
That actually the AR-15 is the most popular rifle in the United States, certainly the most popular platform, thereby making Americans into criminals. But we release 60.
No, because 20% of Americans have somewhere in the order of like 65% of the guns, ballpark. Like there's a lot of people that own one shotgun, one hunting rifle, one handgun, and then there's assholes like these guys that stack them and let them rot and just have dozens of them and buy them like toys, service them rarely, don't oil them, keep them around mostly as, what effectively would eventually they'll have a lampshade on top of them, like part of the Ted Nugent home collection. Those are the people who have all the AR-15s. And the AR-15 is not a special gun in terms of its rifle capacity. It's got, you can put a longer magazine on it because it's a wannabe M16. It looks macho, that's why it sells, because it's got a very specific consumer base.
60-something thousand violent felons in California. Your home city of New York, hundreds of these felons were released and 450 arrests within, I think it was 3 months again. So you look at criminals being released and Americans turned into criminals. And that's something that you see with every socialist regime, not to be extreme.
So we should get rid of cash bail is what you're saying so that real Americans can get out.
But that's necessary.
Well, I mean, just look at last summer.
Yeah, you mean when Trump was president?
I don't know how many riots we had.
I mean, I lost track of, I can't imagine having to count all the Trump riots that there were.
Whatever. In every state run by a Democrat,
You mean the ones that have the biggest cities that make the most money?
Rioter was released from prison within a short period of time.
No. Protesters were. Rioters were often kept.
We have whatever you want to call what happened at the Capitol on January 6th.
A seditious, traitorous attack on our democracy.
It was a one-day event.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Not, for example, in Portland, a one-year event.
Right.
Yeah, but the difference is that the asshats on January 6th didn't wear masks. So the FBI is asking the public's help to find these people. Whereas in Portland, a lot of people wore masked and would raise the question of when you are, in terms of Antifa, the essential problem with anybody who gathers in the name of Antifa is that you do not know, unless you rode in the same car together, whether the person wearing a mask to your right is there for the same reasons you are. It's why in a stable society, we don't wear masks or cover our faces in political protests, because that's how the agent provocateurs show up. Ask Paul Manafort.
Right.
Or in...
By the way, if you're Antifa and you enjoy being Antifa, show your fucking face. 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 If you don't believe in showing your face, then you're not Antifa.
New York,
Not really.
2 week
You might call yourself that, but you're not.
event. It was a one-day event. It was over. No damage to any congressperson, right?
No damage to any congressperson? Yeah, because Ashley Babbitt was shot and it stopped everybody from coming through before they could get everybody that was behind him cleared.
Right.
One person killed, and that was a person who was unarmed and engaged in the demonstration.
Yeah, woman.
Sorry, she was unarmed. So the cop knew that she was unarmed and shot her dead. She didn't have a pipe bomb in her backpack. She didn't have a knife. She didn't have a gun. She was just with a mob of people with backpacks no one had looked into. She was just no rope, no duct tape. She didn't have a pistol to lead people to the gallows. Nobody spirited her gun away after she was shot. No, none of that. You know that for a fact, Rudy?
A woman.
And that case was sort of buried. We don't even know who did it. We don't know
Yes, we do. It was Capitol Security.
the circumstances. Nobody will tell you.
Right.
Even though, gosh, believe me, if that were a white officer and a black woman,
Right.
and the gun comes out and the black woman gets shot and she's unarmed, what do you think would happen?
Yeah.
If she was with a giant mob of people bashing in a window in the Capitol on a day like that, if she had a Confederate flag with her, no, it wouldn't matter.
And people should be upset.
We'd have riots.
Right. And
No, they shouldn't. You can't bash a window and be the first one through the window and not receive fire when the entirety of our government the function of our government is transitioning, and you're there to stop it.
people should be upset by that.
Oh yeah, but not about the cop that was beaten and tasered till he had a heart attack, or the other guy who got his ribs crushed, or the cop who was getting his eyes gouged out, or Sicknick who died. No. How about the two that committed suicide after what they'd been through? What about those guys? We shouldn't be upset about that? I mean, if we're just going by the numbers, we're like, nobody was hurt, but only one woman died. Okay, if we want to go by who died, I mean, obviously you don't give a shit about the cops. Why would you? You wear a gun to work.
It's not as if we have an equal system of justice.
Right.
We do have an equal system of justice.
We have a double standard, and until
We don't have a double standard. The only double standard about it is that when it comes to white-collar criminals and high-level, high-profile people, thanks to Nixon and OJ, the FBI and the DOJ slow rolls all of those cases and crosses their T's and dots their I's twice because it's easier for you guys to go on programs like this and sell your way out of it and muddy the jury pool.
until we solve that, this country is going to be bitterly disunited.
Right. So before we,
Bitterly disunited. Just a poet.
People can't live with these demonstrations of Black Lives Matter demonstrates all summer. They don't have to wear masks. They're yelling, screaming, and spitting each other's face. People go to church, and if it's more than 20%, the minister gets arrested.
right.
He didn't get arrested. And secondly, if you have a church and you gathered more than 20% of your congregation together during COVID, you were without masks, as if you were just attempting to murder a 20% or 10% of that group, especially the older people, so maybe more. And you'd be arrested for endangering lives. And by the way, there's a difference between a bunch of people deciding to go out because there's an event going on and making their own decision about that, and people coordinated and go, come in here, in this enclosed space. But again, freedoms, right? Sorry. And by the way, watch as the summer comes in and people go back to church pretty regularly, especially as people have been vaccinated. This talking point is dead in the water.
Right.
I mean, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah. Or if we're talking about, like, in Michigan, Governor Whitmer, who says, well, I forgot, sorry, but there are restaurant owners who've been actually arrested, actually incarcerated for committing the same violations that she has. Let me ask you this before we
Yeah, because it's for commerce.
go. If there's one thing you want people to know about kind of, this sort of controversy surrounding you right now, because it's tough to keep track, what is it that you think Americans should pinpoint or be aware of?
That both of you support the idea that if you ever come in possession of child porn, you should copy it as much as you can and pass out those copies. That this is something that Steven Crowder and Rudy Giuliani completely agree on. That having multiple copies of child pornography in your home at all times and continuing to make copies of it is the true Donald Trump patriotic maggot way of doing things. Nice, Stephen. Good work.
If you have to leave.
Keep an eye on what I'm revealing and what I'm bringing out, because that's.
You mean nothing? You mean the same 6 pieces of paper that you're wagging around while you will not release the entire hard drive?
More important than what happens to me.
Well, that's
Really? Because you were going to give those hard drives to the FBI agents, but you wouldn't give them to the press?
Because our country is on the way to being a different kind of country, a different form of
No, it isn't. It was. It's not now.
government, a different set of values, a different way of life. And if you don't want that to happen, you got to get involved. You got to get involved with groups that want to stop this, and you got to get involved for 2020. This time, no matter how.
Yeah, get involved for 2020. Really, everybody needs to really. Thanks, Rudy. Big get out the vote. So if you haven't registered to vote 7 months before the election last year, get a time machine.
No matter what they do, we got to win in 2020.
20.
Yes, we do. I agree. Yes, no matter what happens, that we've got to win in 2020.
And
24. Yeah, we already did 20.
You've got to 2022. You've got to understand how important the political process is.
Right.
Because these people are trying to take it away from you. They're even trying to take away a fair vote.
No, they're not. I mean, the Republicans. Are we talking about the same people again?
Right.
Yes,
And they want to try to create a one-party system. Nobody is exaggerating it. They would not be going after me like this if what I was saying wasn't that serious.
Yeah, they would. They would go after you if you were a criminal. Like nobody gave the like. That's like, I mean, it's an extreme example. In no way is Rudy Giuliani like Charles Manson, but it's like saying they went after Charles Manson simply because they didn't like his political leanings or his taste in music.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
That's because you're both dumb. Stephen, you're a dumb person. You're dumb. I mean, I know you float on the idea that you're smart and you're surrounded by yups who make you think you are, but specifically on this issue, you're a fucking dunce. And the fact that you support him making multiple copies of things that you believe he believes is actual child porn and passing it around and keeping the original from the FBI, thereby ruining the chain of evidence if it indeed was real, which is a criminal act that would allow a criminal to go free. Again, dumb.
More about it than anybody, so they want to do whatever they can to destroy my credibility.
No.
No, you have none. They literally don't give a shit. They're going after you because you broke the law. No one cares about your credibility. If you had any credibility, the Hunter Biden laptop would have actually shown up last year for real, and it would have had a real impact because people who looked at it would have gone, well, you can't argue with that.
No, I know. Follow me on Instagram. We're a lot of.
Jesus, that's it? What is... Christ, I need to do a photo shoot, apparently. 2 cigars out of 3, whatever. And then, he's wearing, I see. He's dressed like Marty McFly, so that's from a sketch they did. It's about something. That he, went back to 1955 and wanted to stay.